subscribe, and join my Discord. Or else. For almost the past 2 months, I've been revising some of my old FNaF security breach theories and doing new, more revised versions of them now that we have new information and new ideas brought up. The series was only meant to be 3 videos, but after thinking about it, there's one more theory that I wanted to revisit, and that was my video on Balloon World and how it could be telling us what the next FNaF game is. In this video, I wanted to go over that again, but I want to expand on it. I want to talk about all my predictions for the Ruin DLC and any ideas I have for future FNaF games. I currently have 4 FNaF game ideas, each of which I will actually have some evidence suggesting that they could happen, and I'm going to go over all of that in this video. Balloon World is such a random inclusion in the game, and it doesn't really go anywhere, so most people ignore its existence for the most part. But lucky for you guys, I'm not most people. So now, let's get started. I've had ideas about the Ruin DLC before it was even announced that it would be called Ruin, and before we got that teaser image telling us that and showing a bunch of cool things about it. And I think the Ruin DLC is going to pick up right where we left off in the Afton ending, showing the cutscene from the Afton ending, but extending it, showing the Glamrock animatronics starting to break apart even more and even melting. And in the Ruin teaser, we see the building has started to crumble. We know that the FNaF 6 location is underneath the Pizzaplex, so it makes sense that after it burns down, the rocks and scraps above it crush the building, acting like a sinkhole, as that would be pulling down the support of the Pizzaplex building, which would cause the Pizzaplex itself to start crumbling. In the same teaser, we see Glamrock Chica, but her body and face are starting to melt. Since she was in the pizza place and it burned, that makes a lot of sense. Ruin is taking place after the events of the Afton ending, showing that the Afton ending is the canon one. In another video, I talked about the identity of the Blob and the idea of the Blob and Afton combining to become the Afton amalgamation. MatPat recently made a theory, or not really recently anymore, but it was recently by the time I wrote this part of the script, so don't yell at me in the comments. But yeah, he made a theory in which he talks a bit about the DLC and this idea of Afton combining with the Blob. Basically, everyone hated this idea of the Ruin girl being Elizabeth, but honestly, I think it does kind of make sense, but not in the way that he idealized it. Elizabeth is evil purely for the reason that she follows whatever her father wants her to do. I like the idea that in the DLC, we will be going through Afton's memories and as he combines with the very children he killed. I don't think that'll be the entire DLC, I think that'll just be a part of it, but I think that concept is pretty cool. MatPat believes that the kids are free and that the Blob is just agony, but I heavily disagree with that. But if the kids are still possessing the Blob, then the idea of going through Afton's memories and of like all the murders that he's caused would still make sense if the spirits are still here. I feel like we'd follow multiple perspectives in the DLC, one from Gregory as he's trying to escape the Afton amalgamation. It would be cool if, similar to what happened to Larson, Gregory gets infected by the Glitch Trap virus and has these flashes of the past and Afton's memories. The other perspective could be of this girl, maybe Elizabeth, trying to get into the Pizzaplex and find Gregory, maybe to save him, but maybe to kill him. Or maybe even to find Vanessa. Since, as I've been saying for a while, Elizabeth is most likely Patient 46, at least I think she is, posing as a child to stalk Vanessa and manipulate her. Maybe she's trying to find her. In the retro CDs, Vanessa explicitly leaves town and Patient 46 is left behind. Maybe Elizabeth is now coming to get Vanessa. Whatever the case, I think the Ruin DLC will be William's final outing, going through the history of his character and hopefully a satisfying conclusion. I also think that there will either be a post-credit image or something like that teasing some figure with red pigtails. Wonder who that is. So with Afton now being defeated and Happiest Day only now happening, what happens now? I had a theory a while ago that the bite victim is in fact the receiver of Happiest Day, but he offered to watch over William for Cassidy in Ultimate Custom Night and let Cassidy take his place in Happiest Day. However, Cassidy declines this offer. I still stand by this theory, but since I believe Golden Duo and since there's clearly only one Golden Freddy spirit in Happiest Day, there has to be one spirit left behind. I talked many times about how Happiest Day can't really have happened yet, and therefore Cassidy won't be set free even after Ruin, and even after everyone else is. So what happens? Well, what if what happened with Ultimate Custom Night happens again? Now confident that Afton has no way to escape again, Cassidy could trap him again in another version of Ultimate Custom Night, which could lead into a future game. Also, I should say that I have placeholder names for each of these games. I like these ideas, excluding the second one, but the placeholder for this one is not very creative. Ultimate Custom Night 2. Basically, a sequel to Ultimate Custom Night with a similar story, some of the rejected animatronics from the first Ultimate Custom Night, and some of the Security Breach animatronics as well. It would be cool. Some of you may think it's a bit of a cop-out and would be cooler if Cassidy realized that she has to put her anger behind her, and that would be cool, but I think it would be better if something like this were to happen, since Cassidy isn't free yet and Afton can't escape anymore. But I think Cassidy would still end up putting her anger behind her by the end of the story of this game, which would lead into the next game. Back after Ultimate Custom Night released, Scott made a mega thread of the upcoming FNaF projects, one of which was a game called Into Madness. After a while, the game was said to be on hold. It was supposed to be a collection of minigames in a similar vein to Update 2 from FNaF World. Everyone thought Into Madness was over and done with, but in Security Breach's files, the Balloon World arcade minigame is actually named Into Madness. Balloon World is canonically a part of the Arcade Conspiracy, a link between a bunch of different arcade machines in Security Breach. A bunch of minigames, just like how Into Madness was planned to be. In the FNaF Help Wanted mobile port, we were introduced to Princess Quest, which ended up being in a future FNaF game, that being Security Breach. What if Balloon World is doing the same thing, where it's a minigame that will also appear in a future FNaF game, that being Into Madness? What if Into Madness ends up being a game about the Arcade Conspiracy? But then, why is that important? Well, in one of the duffel bags from Security Breach, someone claims that they can save the princess. But the princess in Princess Quest is Cassidy, and she's not the one that needs to be saved. She is the one doing the saving. She's saving Vanessa from Glitchtrap's control. Cassidy isn't the one needing the saving. Or is she? Remember, Princess Quest is one of the games in the Arcade Conspiracy, and Cassidy is the princess in Princess Quest. What if the Arcade Conspiracy is a link between the arcades that is being used to set Cassidy free? Now that she gave up on William's hell and let him go, her spirit is now allowed to be set free, but because Happiest Day has happened and everyone has gone on without her, she has no way of being set free. FNaF World was a game dedicated to helping the bite victim set up Happiest Day. What if Into Madness is a game about the Arcade Conspiracy being used to set up Cassidy's own Happiest Day, maybe also setting free all the rest of the spirits in Security Breach, Vanny's victims? It would be really cool, and it would even make a lot of sense. The only question could be why it's called Into Madness, but there's even an explanation for that. The one who was playing Princess Quest and talked about it in a duffel bag seemed to be taken out of the Pizzaplex by security. We get multiple other duffel bags talking about someone trying to find the way to finish Princess Quest, but as he's being dragged out of the Pizzaplex, he tells everyone that he can save the princess. It could be that the player of Into Madness is someone who knows Cassidy, maybe even Gregory, who may be a robot of the bite victim, though not the spirit of him, trying to save Cassidy and driving himself mad in order to do so. So, we already talked about Ruin setting up Elizabeth as the villain, but she doesn't make sense to appear in either of the prior games, or this next one. Because everyone has been begging for it for years, I really feel like we should finish off this saga of the series, this specific saga of the series, with a FNaF Origins game. One that I like to call FNaF Out with the Old, just because it's the final game of the original FNaF saga, finishing it off with the origins of the series. I've made a video on my ideas for FNaF Origins nearly a year ago now. Jeez, it's been that long. Almost. It's been like 10 months. And while I don't really agree with all of it anymore, I still think the basic concept of it would be good. We play as William trying to fight his inner demons at the beginning of the series, but ultimately succumbing to the desires. It could be a game that's actually a nightmare, like FNaF 4. Or we could be playing as Elizabeth herself, setting up her full backstory so that her as the villain is set up properly. And that would lead into the next game with the placeholder name of FNaF In With The New. Get it? Because out with the old, in with the new. It's just an idea. They don't have to be called that. It's just like my placeholder names. But here, we could either get a new protagonist, or we could continue with Gregory and Vanessa if they're still alive, and Elizabeth in her new body becomes the villain. It could be a multi-game thing, and it could be the ending for the series, like the final few games of the series, putting to rest the final spirit who hasn't gone yet. Elizabeth is the only one left at this point. Gregory's maybe alive, Vanessa's maybe alive, but I feel like Vanessa would work better as the protagonist since she was the one being puppeteered by Elizabeth in the CD tapes. And once Elizabeth is set free, then the final spirit from the original lore is gone. Therefore, the series can possibly end. Maybe there could be a reboot or a continuation with the Fazbear CEO as the villain? I don't know. But I think that Eleanor should be the next antagonist after the next few games pass. Also, I think I should clarify that I'm not trying to say Eleanor is Elizabeth in the Stitchline universe, but I also don't believe in Stitchline games, meaning it's entirely possible for Eleanor to represent Elizabeth. In my opinion, it's very clear that Eleanor is meant to represent Circus Baby or Elizabeth in some sort of new body, despite what a lot of people say. It is made very clear in the Stitchline that Eleanor is not possessed by Elizabeth, but is just an agony manifestation and a dark shadow monster, pure agony. However, her design and her actions are very similar to Circus Baby. For example, both Eleanor and Baby are characters who manipulate people in order to get what they want. Both steal people's bodies and identities temporarily, and that also causes their bodies to literally crumble. In Michael's case, his body literally falls in on itself, and Eleanor turns people into trash and the scrap metal falls in on each other once the illusion is broken. Both are connected in some way to Remnant as well, since Baby scooping Michael injects Remnant into him, and Eleanor is after Remnant. Plus, Eleanor's design is basically just Baby, but slimmer and with a giraffe neck. Eleanor has the same white skin, the red hair and pigtails, red skirt, cheeks, and also has illusion tech just like Circus Baby does in the fourth closet. As I said before, Princess Quest and a bunch of other stuff imply Afton will become the Afton amalgamation in the Ruin DLC, like in Fazbear Frights, but in this continuity he will combine with the Blob. But in the epilogues of Fazbear Frights, the defeat of the Afton amalgamation is when Eleanor actually appears. Eleanor's whole shtick is that she's been doing stuff in the shadows, just like Patient 46. And after Afton is defeated, that's when Eleanor becomes the main villain. That would imply that Patient 46 will be the main villain after Ruin. And if I'm correct about Patient 46 being Elizabeth, then it makes sense that she will be the villain. One complaint, specifically from the Giga Inky, is that if Eleanor is in the games, it doesn't make much sense that she would be here without all the backstory that we get of her in the Stitchline. But it makes sense if you consider that it's not Eleanor per se, but it's rather just Elizabeth in a new body doing what Eleanor did because Eleanor was the setup for this character. But that's everything I wanted to talk about for today's video. I hope you all enjoyed, and if you did, then please do make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you want to, but I'll see you all in the next video. Bye guys!